For you.
Let me see. I think everyone in the meeting today has seen GAP except for Chris and Phil, perhaps.
I've seen GAP recently and wondered what it meant. It's the Gilgamesh Asteroid Protocol. I thought it was a clothing shop. We already thought that one up this morning, but Gil,
yeah, that's a good name for it. I like it. The GAP project was a little bit of a prototype just to try things out and see what we could get done, and in the way of improving the features that are available with Salt, and work with external files rather than workspace objects. I've borrowed ideas from Acre as well as my mind has gone blank now. I've borrowed ideas from Acre. Let's leave it at that. And the idea is that dialogue should be a little bit more transparent when working with external files instead of the traditional workspace code. So if I can find my project page here, right, so you can read a little bit about it here on github.com/optimasystems/gap, where I explain the background to this prototype and also how to get started using it. But I'll give you a short demo because it's easier to follow if you see what I'm doing here. I've got two files, gap.dialog, which is a namespace script containing the framework, and a diap file which simply loads this script into the session object and initializes it. So if I double click that, we'll see that it starts my interpreter, and because it's a completely fresh project, it's asking me for a name. So if I just hit enter, it gives me the default project name, my app, version number 000, and a suggested source folder called src. If I switch back to the workspace, the folder, I see a source folder created here and a JSON file, basically a configuration file for this project. And in the source folder we see a single file called nsprops, which contains the what do you call them again? It's no good. The properties that could potentially be set on an individual namespace level, right? Okay, now let's see. This screen is a little bit smaller than I was hoping to use, but let's see if we can see something anyway. So just like in Acre, if I create a function, let's call it hello, and hello returns, hello returns hello, right? When I fix it, I see this file appearing in my source folder, and this is dialog 15 beta, by the way, so double-clicking a dialog file in the file system opens the standalone editor, so we can see the code there. And if I choose to change this, I can fix it, and it's asking me if I should write back the changes to source file, which I do. What happens if I go back into my IDE is I can see that change reflected, right?
Right.
Let's say I create an alternative. So hello person, which change to take an argument. And I fix it, I see hello person appear here. And if we do functions, we can see there are two functions there. And then I choose to compare these two files in my compare it third-party tool, and I can see the differences. And I can say, actually, I like that line. I'll take that line. So I copy that line to source, and I hit save, close it, and if I go to my IDE, that's been reflected. Right?
Right.
Same thing with namespaces. So if I create a namespace which I call DAP, and in DAP I create a function pricing factor calcs. This is a very common function name in Optima World. Right. That's a very nice long function. We see as soon as I fix it, the namespace appears with the function that I've created there. And then we've got someone, I'm not going to name any names, also known as the canon, who likes to change functions by changing the casing to differentiate between one function and the other. Sometimes, not always. So
there is some
being able to store two different functions with the same name but different casing is handled by adding a casing tag, which is counting or indicating the positions of the characters that are uppercased. So it's a simple algorithm just to be able to differentiate them, but as you can see, with very long names you get longer tags.
Gil?
Yeah?
I see you've gone for slightly more than 3 digits up there.
Sorry, I've gone for slightly more
than 3 digits in your, you've got 410 in the lower one. You basically encoded the entire name rather than just the... I decided that 3 digits was probably enough, but I can see that the end of your algorithm, your capital D one also is in 410, so probably mine wouldn't work in that case. Acre uses 3 digits for that.
Only 3 digits.
Yeah.
Well,
I've never had a problem, but you've obviously pointed out a bug in Acre, which I didn't know.
Right. Well, I doubt...
That's the decode on the capitalisation.
Yes.
Right, okay. Okay.
So the longer the names, the longer the tag you get.
It's worth coming today, then. Yeah, was it? Thank you, Gil.
I thought it was quite neat, well, let's look at the right, restarting. So if I shut this down, and let's try copying this namespace, and let's change the tag here to 5. When I go back to, sorry, I need to go up one more level. So I've changed I've taken a copy of the namespace, changed the casing tag, and then I start by double-clicking dev diap, which loads it in here. And if we now look at, how do you do this? Right. So we've got two namespaces, one with this casing, which contains those two functions. Same functions because I've copied the folder. The different name is driven by the casing tag rather than the actual casing of the folder in the file system. This is just to ensure that it does manage to keep the casing correct independent of the operating system it runs on. So doing that should have no effect on the actual name when it's brought in. Right. Okay. That about concludes what I intended to show today. But just to reiterate, I envisage that you use a source code management system to actually store your project because of the transparency. Anything you change in the IDE is reflected in the file system, vice versa. You don't have any sort of versioning in place, so if you make a mistake, you've basically lost your code.